Today I'm speaking on why we crave sadness more than happiness and why this is actually more common than you think and how you can actually relate to this whether you realize it or not. You see, a lot of people will consider this a ridiculous notion that we would crave something that feels so terrible for the body in comparison to happiness, which feels so wonderful for the body to experience. But the truth is that we are addicted to emotional states. The emotional states that we experience most frequently becomes the emotional states that we become addicted to as people. And the most frequent emotional states that people become addicted to are the emotional states that relate to struggle. So in this video, I'm going to help you realize the areas of your life you may be choosing sadness over happiness and how to break free from this addiction if this is an emotional state you are addicted to. Now, before we begin, my name is Naomi Dunn. I'm an inner work coach and an EFT practitioner. I help people with emotional healing and trauma healing and perspective shifts based on their current emotional situation. If you feel called to coaching, you would like to work with me, all of my information and my bookings can be booked down below in the description. Okay, let's begin. When you realize that most people are addicted to emotional states that relate to suffering, you actually can't unsee it. And the biggest thing is that you can't unsee it in yourself when it clicks for you. And this video is to help it click for you the areas of your life where you may be choosing sadness because you are underlying subconsciously wanting to experience sadness, because the way to actually break free from this is through the awareness. Why do we become addicted to the things that feel bad instead of the things that feel good? Sometimes people are addicted to joy and happiness, and when we're around those kinds of people, it's like a breath of fresh air because it's very familiar. It's very, unfamiliar to what we usually see in people. But the reason we're often addicted to these emotions that relate to struggle is because when we experience these emotional states, it unconsciously brings a type of high. And that high makes you feel good because it can either reaffirm the identity that you've had. From the first moment you experienced a lot of struggle, you became the person who experiences struggle. If you experience struggle continuously, you became somebody who experiences struggle continuously. That became your identity. So it reaffirms our identity, which always feels fantastic for the ego. It can make us a victim, which can get validation from other people, which can feel really good for those who didn't receive validation in the past. And overall, the exhilaration that we can get from negative emotions can be really intense and can be a feeling that we want to create more of when we first experience it. If we have experienced a lot of struggle where it created a very strong emotion of sadness, of stress, of anger, if we experience that and that became our norm, we will want to continue to experience it, but in greater lengths. So this is what will cause us to unconsciously choose and act and do all of these things that we know will create the same feeling. So what I'm going to do in this video today is I'm going to give you the most common examples that I have seen in myself, because I have experienced this, that I have seen in other people, and that I've learned based on the psychology I have studied on all the ways that people actually subconsciously make decisions, choose things in life that they know deep down will create sadness so they can experience more of it. Now, I want you to listen to every one of these points because it may shock you which ones you relate to, but the beautiful thing about that shock and about that feeling when you realize that you may relate to one of those things is that that is the moment that you can now break free. Because when we can see, I'm making this decision because I want to be sad deep down. When that time comes again, where your past default would be to make that same decision, you now are conscious. And what happens in that moment is you are now faced with, am I going to go back to my previous addiction of choosing things that will make me feel more sad? Or am I going to be conscious this time and make the decision to think or act differently so I don't re-experience it? When we shift to the other side each and every time, where we decide to choose the happiness, to choose the other decision that will not create this sadness, we change the neural pathways in the brain to make that the familiar state of being so we continuously choose the actions that make us feel happier in life instead of sad. I hope that makes sense. Essentially, what I'm saying is when we change our decisions over enough time, we won't even have to try to make the new decisions. We will begin to crave happiness more than sadness. So let me give you all of these examples that I had mentioned, and I want you to see if you relate. Because again, the way to break free from this is by becoming aware of all of the areas we are unconscious so we can become conscious and start to crave happiness more than sadness. Number one, you feel a subtle pleasure when you speak about the pains in your life. Everything I say in this video is to help you, not to blame you. It's not to bring this self-hatred game on. It's to bring on this self-compassion to realize that life can be better, okay? So please, don't blame, become aware so you can shift. I want you to ask yourself if it is a familiar occurrence for you to speak about your pains more than the good things happening in your life. Do you almost feel, like I said, that subtle pleasure, that subtle amount of joy when you have the opportunity to speak on the bad thing that's going on in your life right now? Does it feel like you often have more times bad things to talk about with people rather than good things when it comes to your life? When we find ourselves continuously talking about our pains to people, I hate to break it to you, but you are speaking about these pains because subconsciously you want to amplify the pain from the situation. We all know that if we continuously talk about our pains, we are just reliving the pain instead of resolving it. And a lot of people aren't going to like this, but when we are just bringing up our pains and not resolving the pains, we are reliving in the pain. We're reliving the trauma. We're reliving the stress every time we are talking about it for the purpose of feeling more sad. If you see this in yourself, you need to start practicing. I don't care if you think venting is going to help you. If your life isn't getting better when you say these things and you're not applying the advice people are telling you, you need to start bringing up the joy in your life. Before you share your sad story, your victim story to somebody who asks you how you're doing, you need to bring up the positives in your life. You need to start finding things, even if you don't feel it inside yet, that are beautiful about your life to mention to people when they ask you how you're doing. You need to stop yourself and catch yourself. This is really common, okay? So please see this for yourself. Are you bringing up these pains and getting a subtle amount of pleasure when you do? Number two, are you pushing away beautiful opportunities, friendships, relationships, or experiences? Have you found yourself ever self-sabotaging by saying no to the experiences or the relationships or the things in life that you know deep down will make you feel happy? When we crave sadness more than happiness, this is really common to do. We will push away the things that will bring us the happiness and the joy. I want you to think back on the opportunities you have said no to recently. I want you to think back on maybe the friendships or the hangouts or the things you could have experienced that you thought in the moment, oh, I'm too tired. Maybe this won't be a good time. Maybe I should work on something else instead. I want you to think back and question the real reasons that you said no, because a lot of the time people are saying no because, again, they're craving the familiar instead of that happiness. Become aware of this so you can start saying yes to the friendships, to the experiences, to the events, to doing those things that you know will deep down make you happy. Number three, you seek out negative content often. So this includes the news. This includes YouTube videos, this includes TikToks, this includes any form of content that is negative and does not make you feel good. I'm not afraid to say that I don't watch the news. If I can't change something and it just brings me into a negative state, I do not want to indulge in it. I would rather invest my energy into myself for those around me so I can better serve those in my life, because that's the only thing I can control. When we doom scroll on negativity, we are investing into sadness. Now, of course, if you are doing something about the negative thing you are watching, especially if you're doing something right off the bat, that sadness will be transmuted into happiness. Wonderful. But how often are we doing this? So many people who invest a lot of energy into these negative videos and these negative content When you take a step back and you either look at yourself doing this or you look at the other people doing this, you can see an intensity that indicates addiction. And this is harsh for a lot of people to realize, but it really is addictive to watch content that brings such heightened stress and sadness into our lives. Is it making you a better person to serve others better? Because that is the only thing we can do right now in our lives to make the world better, is to better ourselves so we can serve others better. If that content is only making you stressed and sad, it's not making you a better person. It's just feeding into the addiction to sadness. I promise if you continuously watch negative content every single day, you will become depressed and you will become highly addicted to sadness. Number 4, you feel subtle excitement when something bad happens in your life. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous, but you can sometimes see behind somebody's eyes when something bad happens to them a subtle amount of excitement. Okay, and again, this is not to shame and this is not to blame. There are reasons for this that are not the person's fault. People who are in this state will allow bad things to happen to them without even realizing, because they subconsciously crave validation so deeply that experiencing bad things is a positive in comparison to not, because that means that they will get the craving that they didn't experience in the past. This is common because validation is very important for humans. Connection is very important for humans. When we are depleted of those things, when we are children, we will unconsciously crave bad things to happen later on in life so we can get that validation. Or that person, again, could be in the identity of somebody who is a victim, which makes them feel good about themselves because the ego loves having an identity. So please just become aware, just question with love. Do I ever experience even subtle excitement when bad things happen to me? Does that excitement grow based on how bad the situation is? Number 6, feeling guilty when trying to enjoy a beautiful situation. Feeling guilty when enjoying beautiful situations, this is really difficult because it doesn't allow us to be present. It doesn't allow us to enjoy what is right in front of our eyes. We have no need to feel guilty when we are experiencing beautiful situations. But if we crave sadness and we crave struggle more than happiness, what we will do in those beautiful situations is we will begin thinking about things like our to-do list, like all the things that we didn't get done in the day, like what's going to happen next week, like what happened last week with our partner. You only have right now. When you are experiencing that beautiful moment, that is the only time in your entire life where you are going to experience that moment and its beauty. Feeling guilt is a choice that we are making in that moment to choose a negative emotion instead of the happiness and the joy. And I know this is unconscious and this is difficult and this is our default most of the time, but try your best to realize that there is a choice being made subconsciously to feel guilt, to think of all the bad things and all the things that you should be doing and that you're not doing, and realize that, again, this is the only time you're ever going to experience that moment. Life is too short to continuously think of that to-do list and to feel guilt in beautiful moments. Number 7, you say no to help. Now, hyper independence over time can really negatively impact somebody. And there are different reasons for this. There are different reasons based on personality, based on negative experiences from the past, based on trauma, why somebody will become hyper independent. Whatever your reason is, however big or small it is, you may be aware of it, you may be not. If you realize you are a hyper independent person, you can decide in this moment to change that about yourself. Regardless if it is uncomfortable, you have the ability inside of your body to say yes to help when it is offered, because saying no to help is choosing suffering. It's choosing pain, because we all know when we continuously say no to help, even if we think we can do that thing so much better than the other person, over time you will become burnt out. People offer help because they want to help, because they know that if they give that help to you, it will make your state of being feel more calm, feel more relaxed, feel more happy. You are not a better person if you say no to help. You are not more masculine if you say no to help. You are not stronger if you say no to help. What you're doing is you're depleting yourself of energy. You are still just as worthy, just as strong, just as masculine. Whatever you're trying to gain from being hyper independent, you are still those things, but you are serving yourself better by saying yes to help. Number 8, you obsessively imagine worst case scenarios instead of good scenarios. Have you ever found yourself obsessively imagining over things that haven't even happened? Maybe before you go to bed, as you're driving, just in your everyday life, you obsessively imagine things that bring up negative emotions. The brain knows. When you think of certain things, when you imagine bad scenarios instead of the positive scenarios, the brain knows what you are going to feel when you do that. So if you crave sadness, your brain will automatically want to think of the negative scenarios instead of the positive scenarios and almost obsess over them. We have all found ourselves doing this. And again, this is because emotions are exhilarating to experience, especially the negative ones. So when we create those imaginary scenarios, when we decide to choose the bad scenario instead of the good, the bad possibility of what's to come rather than the positive, if we do that continuously, we are continuously experiencing the feeling of sadness or stress or whatever struggle emotion is coming from that. We're choosing that. You can snap out of it and go, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm wanting to feel bad right now. So I'm imagining a scenario that hasn't even happened. Screw that. I'm going to think of this positive scenario, or I'm going to do something else to distract me that makes me feel good, to rewire the mind that you don't have to choose sadness. You can actually choose happiness instead. Number 9, you keep up with the negative habits that make you sad. This can be really basic and really simple, but can really impact our lives. Now, of course, there are different reasons and stress responses and traumas from the past that will make us not have the desire to do the things that will make us happy in life. But we need to become aware of the things that are actually unconsciously making us sad, so we can try just 1% better every day to work on fixing those little habits that make us sad, and realize that if we continue with those habits sometimes, I know we have depression and lack of motivation and sicknesses that can make things difficult, but if you are craving sadness and those things aren't at play, we need to focus on fixing the habits that we are choosing and know deep down that will make us sad. Not having a clean room, procrastinating, not doing the things in the time that you said you would do them, and then feeling the sadness later because you didn't do them. Picking fights in relationships, especially when things are going good. If you crave sadness more than happiness, let me tell you, you will really see this in relationships, because you will create fights and create problems with your partner that you love because you're craving the familiar feeling. All of those micro habits that you know are making you sad deep down are the things that we need to focus on shifting. Number 10, your body experiences a negative physical symptom after something good happens. This is quite insane when people see it for themselves. I remember one time I had booked one of my very first trips, and this was very exciting for me, but right after I booked it, I experienced a really strong headache and a sore throat. And I knew immediately the reason why this was happening. It was happening because something exciting was happening in my life. Something that was going to bring me a lot of joy was happening in my life. And I had reached what is called my upper limit. An upper limit, this is a concept that was created by Gay Hendricks, and it is a concept that says that we all have upper limits for every area of our life. And since we're talking about happiness today, we all have an upper limit for the amount of happiness that we can hold. And some people it's down here, and some people it's way up here. If we have our upper limit for happiness at this level, and we experience something that exceeds the level that we are used to, the body can and will sometimes create a physical symptom that is negative to bring you back to the level that you are used to create some sort of sadness in your life, to bring you back to the familiar amount of happiness that you are used to. So it's so crazy to see. And when people see it for themselves and when they recognize this in themselves, it is such a shock that the body will physically create a negative symptom after something good. And what are these good things? It could be a new achievement. It could be booking that new exciting trip like I had done and then I got a negative symptom after. It could be experiencing a healthy, happy relationship for the first time. The way to overcome this, sometimes you have to wait out the physical symptom, but what helps with this is to speak to that self-sabotaging part, because when we are reaching that upper limit and going back down, we're experiencing self-sabotage. And I speak to that self-sabotaging side to myself and I tell it, I get to experience this joyful thing. This is my norm. Familiarize yourself with this as your norm as much as you can to diminish that self-sabotaging side. There is completely a difference, because you guys know, if you watch my videos, I am all about emotional processing. I help people with emotional processing. I work on emotional processing on myself almost every single day, okay? But there is a difference between emotionally processing emotions that actually should be processed versus manufactured emotions that we are choosing because we are addicted to the state. When we can distinguish, we can realize in those moments of self-sabotage, when we've reached our upper limit and we sabotage by going back down, we can look at that emotion and say, you are not serving me. You are sabotaging me. I get to be in this state of happiness. I get to choose this in my day. I get to wake up and decide I'm not going to indulge in you today. And that will raise your upper limit. And again, awareness is powerful and awareness is key with changing any of these things. We need to become aware. Are we becoming sick because our immunity is actually low and we are sick? Or did we become sick because we subconsciously chose it because we reached our upper limit? The upper limit problem is only resolved by stretching that limit to how much happiness we can hold. Okay, I think almost everybody who watches this video, if you watch it in full, you will relate to at least one point, because most of us indulge in things that make us sad. This is common, this is normal. Please don't feel bad. But when you become aware, that's the most beautiful moment, when it clicks for you that you have a habit, that you have been choosing sadness in this particular area. That is the most amazing thing you can experience, because now you can change it, because before you could not. You couldn't see it. So don't blame yourself. Don't shame yourself in this journey of choosing happiness over sadness. Okay, if you feel called, I offer one-on-one coaching via Zoom and voice note coaching. All of my coaching information can be booked down below through the link. If you liked this video, you may also like my video where I speak on the addiction to shame. This is also very common for people to experience, and this is something I really struggled with myself, so I love helping people with it. I'm going to put that video on the screen here for you to watch next if you are interested, and if not, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.